You think fighting is about strength, but the real battle? It starts when you lose everything.
I was adjusting the focus ring when the door opened. The warehouse was cold that morning. October in Seattle carries a dampness that gets into your bones. We had been shooting for 3 hours. The fight scene was not going well. Bruce had done the take 7 times. The big man kept pulling his punches. You could see it in Bruce's jaw. He hated pulled punches. The warehouse was on Pier 47, a fish processing plant that had closed in 1969. The owner rented it out for films. The smell of old cod never really left the floor. I remember that smell. I remember the way it mixed with the diesel fumes from the generator truck outside. My name is David Chen. I was the camera operator that day. I had worked with Bruce twice before. Once on a commercial in Los Angeles. Once on a screen test for Warner Brothers. He remembered my name. That was the kind of man he was. The big man was named Victor Kowalski, 6'4", 240 pounds. He was a stuntman from Poland who had worked on European films. His agent sent him over because he could take a fall. That was his job. Take falls, sell hits, make the star look good. He had done it 100 times. He would do it 100 more. But that morning, something was wrong. Bruce could feel it. I could see it in the way he moved between takes, the small adjustments, the way he rolled his shoulders, the way he kept his eyes on Victor when Victor was not looking. The director was a man named Hal Ashby. He was sitting in a folding chair near the loading dock, drinking coffee from a paper cup. He was not watching the monitors. He was watching Bruce. He had seen the same thing. The 7th take ended with Bruce landing a spinning back kick to Victor's chest. Victor sold it well. He stumbled back 3 steps. He hit the wall. He slid down. The stunt coordinator called cut. Bruce did not move. He stood in the center of the warehouse floor, breathing hard, looking at Victor. The warehouse was quiet except for the generator hum. Bruce walked to the corner where his towel hung on a nail. He wiped his face. He did not speak to anyone. I checked the gate on the Arriflex. The film was running low. I signaled to my loader. He nodded. He was a kid from Portland, 19 years old. He wanted to be a cinematographer someday. He worshipped Bruce. He had a poster of Enter the Dragon in his apartment. I knew because he told me every day. Bruce drank water from a plastic cup. He looked at the warehouse door. I looked too. The door was metal, rusted at the edges. It opened onto the pier. You could see the water through the gap. The morning fog was burning off. A seagull screamed somewhere. Bruce set the cup down. He walked back to the center of the floor. He spoke to Victor. I could not hear what he said. Victor shook his head. Bruce spoke again. This time I caught some of it. He was speaking in a low voice, not angry, something else, something I had not heard from him before. Victor stepped back. He raised his hands, not in a fighting stance, in a stopping gesture. Bruce did not stop. He moved closer. He said something else. Victor looked at the stunt coordinator. The stunt coordinator looked at Hal Ashby. Hal Ashby set his coffee down. He stood up. He walked toward them, but he was too far away. The warehouse was big, 80 feet from the loading dock to the far wall. Bruce and Victor were in the middle. The crew formed a loose circle without meaning to. I was behind the camera. My loader was beside me. I could hear him breathing. Bruce said one more thing. I heard it clearly. He said, "Do not sell this one." Victor's face changed. Something in it shifted. The professional mask dropped away. He was no longer a stuntman taking a paycheck. He was a man being asked a question that had only one answer. He nodded, once. Small, almost invisible. Bruce stepped back 3 paces. He raised his hands. Not his movie stance, something older, something from his years in Hong Kong, before the films, before the fame. When he was just a kid learning Wing Chun in a back alley. Victor set his feet. He was not a trained fighter. He was a strong man who knew how to move, but he was big. The size difference was real. Bruce was 5'7", 140 pounds. Victor had 80 pounds on him, 6 inches of reach, the kind of size that ends fights in bars and parking lots, the kind of size that makes people walk away before the first punch. They stood there for 5 seconds, maybe 6. The warehouse was completely silent. The generator had been turned off. Someone had done it without being asked. I do not know who. The only sound was the water against the pilings outside. The seagulls, the distant horn of a ferry. Bruce moved first, not fast, not his movie speed, a step forward, a feint with his left hand. Victor did not bite. He stayed planted. Bruce feinted again. Victor's eyes followed the hand. Bruce stepped inside. He threw a straight right punch to Victor's solar plexus. I heard it. The sound of a closed fist hitting dense muscle. Not the slap of a pulled punch, the thud of real contact. Victor's breath left him in a single rush. His knees bent, but he did not fall. Bruce stepped back. He watched. Victor straightened slowly. He took a breath. It was ragged. He nodded again. This time, the nod meant something different. It meant continue. Bruce moved again. A low kick to Victor's lead leg. The shin connected with the thigh. The sound was sharp, like wood on wood. Victor's leg buckled. He caught himself. He did not fall. The crew was frozen. My loader's hand was on my shoulder. I did not know when he had put it there. Bruce circled. Victor turned to face him. The size difference was still there, but something had changed in the space between them. The air itself felt different, charged, like the moment before lightning. Bruce fainted low. Victor dropped his hands an inch. Bruce came over the top with a back fist. It caught Victor on the cheekbone. The skin split. Blood appeared. Not a lot, a thin line. Victor touched it with his fingers. He looked at the blood. He looked at Bruce. He smiled, not a happy smile, a smile that said he understood now. This was not a movie. This was something else. I did not know what to do with my hands. The camera was rolling. I had not called for it. The loader had pressed the button. I do not remember telling him to. The film was running at 24 frames per second. It was capturing something I did not understand. Bruce had not looked at the lens. He had not looked at me. His eyes were on Victor, only Victor. The warehouse had become small. The 80 feet between the walls had compressed into the space between two men. The crew was not breathing. I could feel it, the absence of sound, the way a room changes when something real is happening inside it. Victor wiped the blood from his cheek. He did it slowly, deliberately. He was buying time. His body was learning something his mind had not yet accepted. He had been hit before, in bars, in gyms, on film sets, where the coordination failed and a punch landed harder than planned. But he had never been hit by someone who meant it. Not like this. Not with the precision Bruce had shown. The punch had found a gap between his ribs that Victor did not know existed. A space the size of a fist. Bruce had found it without searching. His body knew. That was the difference between a fighter and a man who fights. The body knows. Bruce circled to his left. Victor turned with him. The movement was clumsy. Victor was not used to moving with someone this fast. On film sets, the choreography gave you time. You knew where the punch was coming from. You knew where to fall. You had 3 beats to prepare. Bruce gave no beats. He moved like water. That was the phrase he used in interviews. Be water. I had always thought it was philosophy. That morning, I understood it was physics. He did not commit his weight until the last possible millisecond. He flowed around Victor's guard. He found angles that should not have existed. Victor was big. Bruce was where Victor was not. The second exchange lasted 4 seconds. Bruce feinted with his right hand. Victor raised his left arm to block. The block was instinctive, the kind of block that works in a boxing gym, the kind of block that assumes the punch is coming straight. Bruce's hand never arrived. He was already inside. His left palm struck Victor's chin, not a punch, a push. It snapped Victor's head back. His balance shifted. His weight went to his heels. Bruce's right foot swept Victor's left ankle. The sweep was gentle, almost kind. Victor hit the concrete floor with a sound I will never forget. It was not the sound of a stunt fall. It was the sound of a large man losing control of his own body. The air left his lungs in a grunt. His eyes went wide. He lay on his back looking at the warehouse ceiling, the rusted beams, the single skylight where the morning sun came through. Bruce stood over him. He did not raise his hands. He did not celebrate. He looked at Victor with something I could not name, not pity, not triumph, something closer to recognition. He extended his hand. Victor looked at it. He looked at the blood on his own fingers. He looked at the ceiling again. Then he took Bruce's hand. Bruce pulled him up. Victor's knees were unsteady. He was breathing hard. The fall had shaken something loose in him, not his body, something else. The part of him that believed size was enough, the part of him that had walked into the warehouse that morning thinking he was the dangerous one. The crew exhaled. I heard it, a collective release. My loader's hand was still on my shoulder. I reached up and touched it. I do not know why. I needed to feel something solid. The camera was still rolling. I had not stopped it. Hal Ashby was standing 10 feet away. He had not moved since Bruce spoke to Victor. His coffee cup was on the floor where he had dropped it. The brown stain was spreading on the concrete. He looked at the stain. He looked at Bruce. He looked at me. He did not speak. He did not need to. We all understood that something had happened that was not in the script, something that would not be in the film, something that belonged only to the people in that warehouse. Bruce walked to the corner. He picked up his towel. He wiped his face again. This time the towel came away darker, sweat and something else. He was shaking, not visibly, a small tremor in his left hand. He held the towel with both hands until it stopped. I saw it because I was looking, because the camera was still rolling and I was still looking through the viewfinder. The loader whispered something I did not hear. What? I did not ask. Bruce set the towel down. He walked to the loading dock. He stood at the open door. The fog was almost gone. The water was grey and flat. A container ship was moving past the pier. He watched it until it passed from view. Victor sat on a wooden crate near the far wall. The stunt coordinator approached him. He spoke in a low voice. Victor shook his head. He said something I could not hear. The coordinator nodded. He walked away. Victor sat alone. He touched his cheek again. The bleeding had stopped. The cut was small. It would heal in a week. But something else would not heal. I could see it in the way he held himself, the way his shoulders curved inward, the way he looked at the floor instead of the people around him. He had come to the warehouse that morning as a professional. He was leaving as something else, a man who had learned that his profession was not enough, that there were things in the world his size could not protect him from. The second assistant director called lunch. No one moved. She called it again, louder. People began to shift. They walked to the catering table like sleepwalkers. They took sandwiches they did not eat. They drank coffee they did not taste. The loader finally stopped the camera. He looked at me. His eyes were wet. Not crying, something else. The way your eyes water when you see something you cannot process. I put my hand on the magazine. The film was still warm. I thought about what was on it. 7 takes of choreography, and 1 minute of something else. Something that had happened while the camera was running, and no one had called action. I developed the film that night. In the small lab I rented near Pike Place Market, I ran it through the processor alone. The 7 takes were what they were, professional, clean. The 8th was different. The light was the same. The angles were the same, but the bodies moved differently. The space between them was alive. I watched it 5 times, then I cut it. I took the scissors and I cut the film. I removed the minute that did not belong. I spliced the ends together. The jump was invisible. No one would know. I put the cut piece in an envelope. I wrote the date on it, October 14th, 1973. I put the envelope in a box. The box went into a drawer. The drawer stayed closed for 40 years. The warehouse door opened again. I did not see who opened it. The wind came in from the water. It carried the smell of salt and diesel and something else, something cold. The shaft of light that had held Bruce moved. He was half in shadow now, half in light. Victor was still in shadow. The contrast was less extreme. I could see both men more clearly. Victor's face was swelling on the left side. The ridge hand had done more damage than I thought. His eye was narrowing, the skin around it tightening. Bruce's knuckles were red. The canvas shoes had left marks on the concrete, small black scuffs. I remember thinking someone would have to clean those. I remember thinking it did not matter. Hal Ashby had moved closer. He was 20 feet away now, near the edge of the loose circle the crew had formed. He was not directing, he was witnessing. There is a difference. Directors control, witnesses receive. Ashby was receiving something he had not asked for, something he would carry with him. He told me years later, in a bar in Santa Monica, that he had thought about calling cut, about stopping it, but he had not known how. There was no protocol for this, no chapter in the director's handbook. A star and a stuntman alone on a warehouse floor, doing something that was neither work nor play, something older than both. The 4th exchange began with Victor. That was the surprise. He moved first, a lunge, not graceful, not trained. The lunge of a big man who has decided to use what he has. His arms came up. He tried to grab Bruce, to hold him, to use his weight and size the way a wrestler would. Bruce did not retreat. He moved inside the lunge. His shoulder connected with Victor's chest. The impact was solid. I heard the air leave Victor's lungs, but Bruce did not stop there. He kept moving. His hip turned. His leg swept. Victor's momentum became his enemy. The big man went down, not a fall, not a stunt fall, a real fall. His knee hit the concrete first. The sound was hard, unforgiving. Then his hand, he caught himself. His palm slapped the concrete. The sound was flat, final. He was on one knee. His other leg was bent. His head was down. His breathing was loud, ragged. The warehouse was silent, except for that breathing. Bruce stood 3 feet away. He did not move closer. He did not strike. He waited. The moment stretched. I counted my own heartbeat. 6, 7, 8. Victor looked up. His eyes found Bruce. There was no anger in them, no shame, only acceptance. He had fallen. The question had been answered. He pushed himself up, slowly. His knee was bleeding. The canvas of his work pants was torn. The skin beneath was raw. He stood. He was not steady. He set his feet. He faced Bruce again. The crew was breathing again. I had not noticed that we had stopped. The loader's hand was gone from my shoulder. I did not know when he had removed it. I did not look at him. I could not look away from the floor. Bruce spoke. For the first time since the exchange began, his voice was quiet, not breathless, controlled. He said, "Enough." Victor shook his head once, small, the same gesture he had made before, the gesture that meant continue. Bruce studied him. His eyes moved across Victor's face, the swelling, the blood on the temple, the torn pants, the knee that would bruise for weeks. He saw something, I do not know what, but his expression changed. The hardness softened, not completely, but enough. He said, "No, this is enough." Victor did not move. He stood there, waiting. Bruce stepped back 3 paces. He lowered his hands. The stance dissolved. The man from the films returned. The man who smiled for cameras, who signed autographs, who made jokes between takes. But the crew had seen the other man, the man who stood in the shaft of light, who struck without pulling, who waited for a fallen man to rise, who spoke quietly when he could have shouted. That man did not leave the warehouse. He stayed in the air, in the silence, in the way no one moved for 10 seconds after Bruce lowered his hands. Hal Ashby was the first to break the silence. He said, "Cut." The word was strange. It did not belong. There had been no cameras rolling, no film turning, no slate. But he said it anyway, because it was the only word he had, the only way to end something that had no proper ending. Bruce walked to his towel. He wiped his face. He drank water. He did not look at Victor. Victor stood alone in the center of the floor. The stunt coordinator approached him, spoke quietly. Victor nodded. He walked to the loading dock, sat on the edge. His legs hung over. He looked at the water. The fog had burned off completely. The sun was high now. The water was grey-green, chopped by wind. A container ship was moving past the pier. Its horns sounded deep, resonant. Victor did not look up. I checked the camera, the gate, the film. Everything was in order. The loader was beside me. His face was pale. He had seen something that did not fit in his poster, something that would complicate his worship. He would carry that complication. He would grow because of it, or he would shrink. I did not know which. I still do not know. He left the film industry 3 years later, became a teacher, elementary school, Portland. I heard he tells the story sometimes to other teachers over beers. He changes the details, makes it shorter, makes it cleaner, but the core remains, the warehouse, the silence, the man who did not fall until he fell. Bruce came to me. He looked at the camera. He asked if we had film. I said yes. He asked if I had been rolling. I said no. He nodded. He did not seem disappointed. He seemed relieved. He said, "Good, some things should not be recorded." He walked away toward the dressing area, a corner of the warehouse screened off with canvas. He moved slowly. The exertion was catching up, the adrenaline fading, the body returning to its ordinary state, the state where strikes hurt, where muscles ache, where the mind replays moments and finds the moments where it could have gone differently. I watched him go. I watched Victor on the loading dock. I watched the crew disperse, return to their tasks. The gaffer adjusting a light that did not need adjusting. The sound man coiling cable that was already coiled. The continuity girl staring at her notes without reading them. Everyone finding something to do, something to look at, something that was not the center of the floor, where 2 men had stood, where one had fallen, where the other had waited, where something had passed between them that no one could name. The day continued. We shot other scenes. Bruce and Victor did not work together again. Victor's scenes were completed with a different stuntman, a smaller man, a man who pulled his punches without being asked. The film wrapped on schedule. It was released the following summer. It did well, not great. The warehouse scene was in the final cut. The fight scene, the choreography, the pulled punches, the falls that were sold beautifully. No one who watched it knew what had happened that morning, what had happened before the cameras rolled, what had happened in the silence between 2 men who had agreed to something without words. 6 months later, I was in Hong Kong, a commercial shoot, Japanese whiskey. The client wanted neon lights and rain. Hong Kong gave them both without asking. I was staying at the Miramar Hotel in Tsim The room was small, the air conditioning was loud, the window looked out at the harbour. At night, the ships were lit like Christmas trees. I could not sleep. The time difference, the humidity, the memory of a warehouse in Seattle that would not leave me. I met a man named Wong in a bar near the hotel. He was 70 years old, maybe older. His skin was leather, his hands were scarred. He had been a stuntman in the Hong Kong film industry for 40 years. He had worked with Bruce, early films, the ones before Hollywood, The Big Boss, Fist of Fury, Way of the Dragon. He spoke about Bruce with a mixture of love and fear, the way men speak about storms, about fires, about forces that do not recognize human scale. I told him about the warehouse, about Victor, about the silence. He listened without interrupting. He drank his whiskey. It was local, cheap. He did not touch it while I spoke. When I finished, he set the glass down. He looked at the harbour, the lights moving on the water. He said, "Bruce was looking for something in America. He did not find it. He found something else, something he did not want." I asked what he meant. Wong turned the glass in his hands. The whiskey caught the light. Amber. Thick. He said, "In Hong Kong, Bruce was the biggest, the fastest, the strongest. No one doubted, no one tested. He was king. In America, he was small, he was Chinese, he was strange. They looked at him like he was nothing, like he was less than nothing. That made him angry. But it also made him doubt. For the first time, he wondered if he was real, if the things he could do were real, or if they were only real because no one had challenged them." He drank. He set the glass down. He said, "The warehouse, Victor, that was the test, not the fight, the doubt." Bruce needed to know if he was still the man from Hong Kong, the man who could not be beaten, or if he had become something else, something smaller, something that only existed in films, in posters, in the memory of people who never saw him bleed. I asked if he thought Bruce had found his answer. Wong smiled, not a happy smile, a smile that held pain. He said, "Bruce found an answer, not the one he wanted. The fight with Victor proved he could still win, he could still strike, he could still stand when another man fell. But it proved something else. It proved that winning did not feel the way it used to. In Hong Kong, when Bruce won, he felt alive, he felt clean. In that warehouse, when Victor fell, Bruce felt nothing, or he felt something worse than nothing. He felt the hollowness of a man who has spent his life becoming something and discovers that the something is not enough." The bar was closing, the staff was stacking chairs. Wong stood slowly. His knees were bad, 40 years of falls, of impacts, of bodies that did not heal the way young bodies heal. He put money on the bar, more than enough. He walked to the door. He stopped. He did not turn around. He said, "Bruce called me once, after the warehouse, late, 3 a.m, Hong Kong time." He was not making sense. He talked about the fight, about Victor, about the way the big man had looked at him after he fell. Not angry, not defeated, something else, something Bruce could not name. He kept asking me what it meant, what Victor had seen, what Victor had understood that Bruce had not. I told him I did not know. I was lying, I knew. Victor had seen a man who was still searching, still doubting, still empty, even in victory. That is what scared Bruce, not losing, winning and feeling nothing. He left. I sat at the bar, the staff swept around me. I did not move. I thought about the warehouse, about Bruce's face after Victor fell, the blankness, the absence of triumph. I had thought it was exhaustion, adrenaline crash. Now I understood it was something deeper, something that would not be fixed by rest, by food, by the applause of a crowd that did not know what it was applauding. I saw Bruce one more time. Los Angeles, 1972, a party in the Hollywood Hills. The house was glass and steel. The pool was lit from beneath, blue light, unnatural. Bruce was standing at the edge of the pool, alone. He was wearing a black turtleneck, black pants. He looked thin, too thin. The roles were taking their toll. The training, the fasting, the need to be perfect, to be faster than last time, stronger than last time, more than he had been. I approached him. I did not know if he would remember me. He turned before I spoke. He smiled. The film smile, the smile that opened doors, that signed contracts, that made people believe they knew him. He said, "David, the cameraman, Seattle." He remembered. Of course he remembered. That was the kind of man he was, the kind of man who filed away every name, every face, every moment that might be useful. We talked for 10 minutes, maybe 15, surface things, the industry, the weather, the traffic on the 405. Then the conversation shifted. I do not know how. Maybe I mentioned Hong Kong, maybe he did. He spoke about Wong, about the phone call. He did not look at me while he spoke. He looked at the pool, the blue light, the water moving slightly in the night breeze. He said, "Wong thinks he understands. He thinks he knows what I was looking for. He does not. No one does. Not even me. That is the problem. The searching without knowing what you are searching for. The winning without knowing what you have won." He was quiet for a moment. The party continued around us. Laughter, music, the clink of glasses. He said, "Victor, the big man, do you know what happened to him?" I said I did not. Bruce nodded. He said he went back to Poland. He works in a factory now, making car parts. I send money every month. He does not answer my letters, but the money is cashed. That is enough. That is something, a connection, a thread, a way of saying that what happened in that warehouse was real, even if no one else believes it, even if I am not sure I believe it myself. He turned to me. His eyes were different from the warehouse, older, tired, but something else, something that had not been there before, a kind of peace, or the acceptance of a lack of peace. He said, "You did not roll the camera that day. I am grateful. But sometimes I wish you had. Sometimes I need proof that it happened, that I was there, that I was real. The films are not proof. The films are performances. The warehouse was something else, something I cannot name, something I am still trying to understand." He walked away, toward the house, toward the party, toward the people who wanted his smile, his handshake, his presence. He did not look back. I stood at the edge of the pool, the blue light, the moving water. I thought about proof, about reality, about the difference between what is recorded and what is remembered. The camera sees everything and nothing. It captures the surface, the movement, the light. It misses the silence, the weight, the thing that passes between two men who have agreed to something without words. 6 months later, I was in Hong Kong. A commercial shoot. Japanese whiskey. The client wanted neon lights and rain. Hong Kong gave them both without asking. I was staying at the Miramar Hotel in Tsim Sha Tsui. The room was small, the air conditioning was loud, the window looked out at the harbour. At night, the ships were lit like Christmas trees. I could not sleep. The time difference, the humidity, the memory of a warehouse in Seattle that would not leave me. I met a man named Wong in a bar near the hotel. He was 70 years old, maybe older. His skin was leather, his hands were scarred. He had been a stuntman in the Hong Kong film industry for 40 years. He had worked with Bruce, early films, the ones before Hollywood, The Big Boss, Fist of Fury, Way of the Dragon. He spoke about Bruce with a mixture of love and fear, the way men speak about storms, about fires, about forces that do not recognize human scale. I told him about the warehouse, about Victor, about the silence. He listened without interrupting. He drank his whiskey. It was local, cheap. He did not touch it while I spoke. When I finished, he set the glass down. He looked at the harbor, the lights moving on the water. He said, Bruce was looking for something in America. He did not find it. He found something else, something he did not want. I asked what he meant. Wong turned the glass in his hands. The whiskey caught the light, amber, thick. He said, in Hong Kong, Bruce was the biggest, the fastest, the strongest. No one doubted, no one tested. He was king. In America, he was small. He was Chinese. He was strange. They looked at him like he was nothing, like he was less than nothing. That made him angry. But it also made him doubt. For the first time, he wondered if he was real. If the things he could do were real, or if they were only real because no one had challenged them. He drank. He set the glass down. He said, the warehouse, Victor, that was the test, not the fight, the doubt. Bruce needed to know if he was still the man from Hong Kong, the man who could not be beaten, or if he had become something else, something smaller, something that only existed in films, in posters, in the memory of people who never saw him bleed. I asked if he thought Bruce had found his answer. Wong smiled, not a happy smile, a smile that held pain. He said, Bruce found an answer, not the one he wanted. The fight with Victor proved he could still win. He could still strike. He could still stand when another man fell. But it proved something else. It proved that winning did not feel the way it used to. In Hong Kong, when Bruce won, he felt alive. He felt clean. In that warehouse, when Victor fell, Bruce felt nothing. Or he felt something worse than nothing. He felt the hollowness of a man who has spent his life becoming something and discovers that the something is not enough. The bar was closing. The staff was stacking chairs. Wong stood slowly. His knees were bad. 40 years of falls, of impacts, of bodies that did not heal the way young bodies heal. He put money on the bar, more than enough. He walked to the door. He stopped. He did not turn around. He said, Bruce called me once, after the warehouse, late, 3 a.m, Hong Kong time. He was not making sense. He talked about the fight, about Victor, about the way the big man had looked at him after he fell, not angry, not defeated, something else, something Bruce could not name. He kept asking me what it meant, what Victor had seen, what Victor had understood that Bruce had not. I told him I did not know. I was lying. I knew. Victor had seen a man who was still searching, still doubting, still empty, even in victory. That is what scared Bruce, not losing, winning and feeling nothing. He left. I sat at the bar. The staff swept around me. I did not move. I thought about the warehouse, about Bruce's face after Victor fell, the blankness, the absence of triumph. I had thought it was exhaustion, adrenaline crash. Now I understood it was something deeper, something that would not be fixed by rest, by food, by the applause of a crowd that did not know what it was applauding. I saw Bruce one more time, Los Angeles, 1972, a party in the Hollywood Hills. The house was glass and steel. The pool was lit from beneath, blue light, unnatural. Bruce was standing at the edge of the pool, alone. He was wearing a black turtleneck, black pants. He looked thin, too thin. The roles were taking their toll. The training, the fasting, the need to be perfect, to be faster than last time, stronger than last time, more than he had been. I approached him. I did not know if he would remember me. He turned before I spoke. He smiled, the film smile, the smile that opened doors, that signed contracts, that made people believe they knew him. He said, David, the cameraman, Seattle. He remembered. Of course he remembered. That was the kind of man he was, the kind of man who filed away every name, every face, every moment that might be useful. We talked for 10 minutes, maybe 15, surface things, the industry, the weather, the traffic on the 405. Then the conversation shifted. I do not know how. Maybe I mentioned Hong Kong. Maybe he did. He spoke about Wong, about the phone call. He did not look at me while he spoke. He looked at the pool, the blue light, the water moving slightly in the night breeze. He said, "Wong thinks he understands. He thinks he knows what I was looking for. He does not. No one does, not even me. That is the problem. The searching without knowing what you are searching for. The winning without knowing what you have won." He was quiet for a moment. The party continued around us. Laughter, music, the clink of glasses. He said, "Victor, the big man, do you know what happened to him?" I said I did not. Bruce nodded. He said, "He went back to Poland. He works in a factory now, making car parts. I send money. Every month. He does not answer my letters, but the money is cashed. That is enough. That is something, a connection, a thread, a way of saying that what happened in that warehouse was real. Even if no one else believes it, even if I am not sure I believe it myself." He turned to me. His eyes were different from the warehouse, older, tired, but something else. Something that had not been there before. A kind of peace, or the acceptance of a lack of peace. He said, You did not roll the camera that day. I am grateful, but sometimes I wish you had. Sometimes I need proof that it happened, that I was there, that I was real. The films are not proof. The films are performances. The warehouse was something else, something I cannot name, something I am still trying to understand." He walked away, toward the house, toward the party, toward the people who wanted his smile, his handshake, his presence. He did not look back. I stood at the edge of the pool, the blue light, the moving water. I thought about proof, about reality, about the difference between what is recorded and what is remembered. The camera sees everything and nothing. It captures the surface, the movement, the light. It misses the silence, the weight, the thing that passes between two men who have agreed to something without words. The call came in July. I was in New York, editing a documentary about dock workers. The phone rang at 2 a.m. My apartment was hot. The window unit was broken. I answered without looking at the number. A voice I did not recognize. A woman. She said she was calling from Los Angeles. She said Bruce was dead. I set the phone down. I looked at the ceiling. The paint was peeling in one corner. A water stain shaped like a hand. I picked the phone up again. She was still there. She was crying. She said it was an allergic reaction, a painkiller, Equiges, something his doctor had given him for a headache. His brain swelled. He never woke up. July 20th, 1973. He was 32 years old. I did not go to the funeral. I could not afford the ticket. I could not afford the time. The documentary had a deadline. The dock workers were waiting. I sent flowers, white lilies, no card. I did not know what to write. What words could contain what I felt, what I had seen, what I had not seen? The warehouse, the pool, the man who smiled and felt nothing, the man who sent money to Poland for a connection he could not name. I thought about Victor, the big man in the factory, making car parts, cashing checks he did not acknowledge. Did he know? Did someone tell him? Did he read it in a newspaper? Did he feel anything? Or had the warehouse become for him what it had become for me? A memory that did not fit in ordinary life, a moment that existed outside of time, that could not be shared, could not be explained, could only be carried. I called the Miramar Hotel 6 months later. I asked for Wong. They said he had moved, no forwarding address. I asked the bartender from that night. He had quit, gone to Vancouver. I asked other stuntmen, other old men with scarred hands and bad knees. Some remembered Wong. None knew where he was. One said he had heard Wong died, a stroke, quick. Another said he had seen him in Macau, playing mahjong, alive and losing. I did not know which to believe. I still do not know. The documentary was released. It did well, won a small award, a film festival in Chicago. I went, I stood on stage, I held the statue. It was heavy, brass, a man holding a camera. I looked at it and thought of the Ariflex in the warehouse, the gate, the film, the moment I did not roll, the proof I did not capture. I gave a speech. I thanked the dock workers, the editor, my mother. I did not thank Bruce. I did not mention the warehouse. Some things are too heavy for a stage, too private for an audience. I met a woman at the festival. She was a producer, independent films. She had money from her family, oil, Texas. She wanted to make a film about martial arts, about the philosophy, the discipline, the transformation of body and mind. She asked if I knew anyone. I said no, I was lying. I knew Bruce, I knew Wong, I knew Victor in a way that was not knowing. She sensed the lie. She did not press. She gave me her card. I threw it away in the hotel lobby. I did not want to make that film. I did not want to explain what I did not understand. Years passed. The warehouse was demolished in 1978, a condominium complex, waterfront living, starting at $400,000. I saw the advertisement in a magazine. I tore the page out. I kept it in a drawer. I do not know why. The drawer also held a button from a shirt, a ticket stub from a film, a photograph of my father, objects without connection, without meaning, except the meaning I gave them, the meaning I could not explain. I married, I divorced, I married again. The second marriage lasted. She was a teacher, high school English. She read books I had never heard of. She talked about themes, symbols, the unconscious mind. I told her about the warehouse one night. We were in bed, the lights were off, the window was open. Summer, crickets. I told her everything. The smell of cod, the diesel fumes, the scuff marks on the concrete, the way Bruce's hands trembled, the way Victor looked at the water after he fell. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "You are in love with him?" I asked, "Who?" She said, "The moment, the warehouse. The thing that happened that you cannot name. You have spent your life trying to recreate it, in your work, in your relationships, in the way you look at the world. You are waiting for another warehouse, another Bruce, another Victor. You will not find them. The moment was the moment. It does not repeat. It does not translate. It only exists in the remembering, and the remembering is never the same as the thing remembered." I did not answer. She was right and wrong. I was not in love with the moment. I was haunted by it. There is a difference. Love wants to repeat. Haunting wants to understand, to resolve, to find the meaning that was not apparent at the time. I was still looking for that meaning in films, in books, in the faces of strangers who walked into rooms without looking around. I saw Bruce in them. I saw Victor. I saw the space between them, the silence, the thing that passed. I went to Poland in 1985, a film festival in Warsaw. I took a train to a factory town, 3 hours. The landscape was flat, grey, industrial. The factory was large, brick, smokestacks. I stood across the street. I watched the workers leave, men in blue coveralls, women in headscarves. I looked for Victor. I did not know what I would say, what I would ask. I did not find him, or I did not recognize him. The years had passed, the body changes, the face becomes someone else's face. I asked a worker. I described Victor, big, Polish, former stuntman. The worker shook his head. He did not know. He suggested the office. I went. I spoke to a woman. She checked records. She said a man named Kowalski had worked there. He had retired 2 years before. He had moved, no forwarding address. She gave me a look. The look of someone who has seen this before, the searcher, the one who arrives too late, who misses the connection by inches, by days, by the space between wanting to know and knowing. I returned to Hong Kong in 1987. The Miramar Hotel was still there. The harbour was different. Taller buildings, more lights. The ships were larger, container ships, not the fishing boats I remembered. The bar where I met Wong was gone. A convenience store now, bright, fluorescent, selling things I did not need. I bought a beer anyway. I drank it on the street. The humidity was the same, the smell of the city, diesel and salt and something else. Something that never changes, something that makes a place recognizable, even when everything else has changed. I found a gym in Mongkok. 3rd floor, above a restaurant. The stairs smelled of cooking oil, garlic, ginger. The gym was small, 2 heavy bags, a wooden dummy, a mirror that was cracked in one corner. An old man was hitting the bag. His form was good. His strikes were slow but precise. Each one landed exactly where he intended. He did not look at me. He finished his round. He wiped his face with a towel. He turned. He was not Wong. He was someone else, someone I did not know. I asked about Wong. The old man shook his head. He did not know the name. I described him. 70, scarred hands, bad knees, 40 years in the industry. The old man thought. He said there was a man, years ago, he had worked at Shaw Brothers, then Golden Harvest. Then he disappeared. Some said he went to the mainland. Some said he died. The old man did not know. He did not care. The past was the past. The bag was waiting. He turned back to it. He began to hit it again. The sound was rhythmic, like a heartbeat, like something alive. I went to Golden Harvest Studios. The gate was different. New paint. A security guard with a uniform that did not fit. I asked to enter. I said I was a filmmaker. I had worked with Bruce Lee. The guard looked at me. He was young, 25, maybe younger. He did not know the name, Bruce Lee. He said it back to me like a question. I said yes, the famous actor. The guard shrugged. He made a call. He spoke in Cantonese, fast. I did not understand. He hung up. He said no visitors without appointment, no exceptions. I stood at the gate. I looked through the bars. The lot was bigger than I remembered. More buildings, less character. The past was being paved over, replaced by something efficient, something forgettable. I walked to the pier. The one near the old warehouse. The condominium complex was finished. People lived there now, families, couples, people who did not know what had stood before, what had happened on the concrete floor that was now underground parking. I stood at the water's edge. The pilings were new, the wood was clean, no barnacles, no moss. I looked for the spot where Victor had sat, where he had looked at the water, where the container ship had passed, the horn sounding. I could not find it. Everything was different. Everything was the same. The water, the sky, the wind, the things that do not change, the things that outlast memory. I met a journalist in a cafe in Central. She was American. She had been in Hong Kong for 10 years. She wrote about film, about the industry, about the people who had built it. I told her about Bruce, about the warehouse, about Victor. She listened. She took notes. She asked questions. She wanted to know if I had proof, documentation, witnesses. I said no, only memory, only the things I carried. She put her pen down. She said she could not use the story. Without proof, it was just a story, just a memory, just something that might have happened, might not have happened. The difference between history and fiction, the line that journalists draw, I understood. I did not argue. I paid for her coffee. I left. I walked through the streets of Central. The buildings were tall. The sidewalks were crowded. Everyone moving. Everyone going somewhere. I thought about proof, about documentation, about the things we accept as real, the things we dismiss as imagination. The warehouse was real. I was there. I saw it. I felt it. But I could not prove it. The camera was not rolling. The film was not turning. There was no record. Only the record in my mind, the record that changes, that fades, that invents details to fill gaps, that forgets details that do not fit the narrative I have constructed. I went back to the gym in Mongkok. The old man was still there. He was hitting the bag. Same rhythm, same precision. I watched him. I thought about asking to join, to learn, to do something with my body that would connect me to the past, to the warehouse, to the moment. I did not ask. I was too old, too stiff, too full of memory. The body does not forget, but it does not remember either. It exists in the present, in the strike, in the breath, in the space between one movement and the next. Memory is the enemy of the present, the thing that pulls you back, that makes you hesitate, that makes you old before your time. I left Hong Kong the next day. The flight was long. I did not sleep. I watched the map on the screen. The plane moving across the Pacific, the blue expanse, the emptiness. I thought about Bruce, about the way he died, the allergic reaction, the swelling brain. The thing that could not be fought, could not be struck, could not be overcome by speed or strength or will. The body betraying itself, the thing inside that was stronger than the will to live. I thought about Victor, about the factory, the car parts, the checks he cashed without acknowledging. Was he still alive? Did he think about the warehouse? Did he tell the story, or did he bury it? The way the warehouse was buried, under concrete, under condominiums, under the weight of ordinary life. I landed in Los Angeles. The heat was dry, different from Hong Kong. The sky was bigger, the light was harsher. I took a taxi to my apartment. The driver did not speak. The radio was on. News, traffic, the weather, the ordinary things that fill the space between moments. I looked out the window. The city passed. Buildings, cars, people, all of them carrying something, all of them leaving something behind. The warehouse was gone. Bruce was gone. Wong was gone. Victor was gone, even if he was still alive. The only thing left was the memory. And the memory was not enough. It was too much. It was both. It was neither. I entered my apartment. I set my bag down. I looked at the drawer where I kept the magazine page, the button, the ticket stub, the photograph. I did not open it. I knew what was inside. I knew what was not inside. The thing I was looking for, the proof, the resolution, the meaning, they were not there. They had never been there. They were in the warehouse. In the moment. In the space between Bruce and Victor. In the silence that followed the fall. In the thing that passed between two men who agreed to something without words. That was where the meaning lived, and that was where it would stay. Forever. Unreachable. Unrecorded. Real. I received a letter in 1992. No return address. The postmark was Polish. The handwriting was shaky. Block letters. The kind of handwriting that comes from a hand not used to holding a pen. I opened it at my kitchen table. Morning, coffee, the light coming through the window at an angle that meant autumn. The letter was short, 7 sentences. I counted them. I still remember the number, 7, like the takes Bruce did before Victor stopped pulling his punches. The letter said, "I am Victor Kowalski. You were in Seattle, the warehouse. I remember you, the camera. You did not roll. I am glad. Some things should not be recorded. I am dying. Cancer. The doctors say months, maybe less. I want to tell you something. Bruce sent money every month for 19 years. I never wrote back. I was ashamed. I am still ashamed. But I want you to know." The money was not important. The knowing was important. The knowing that someone remembered, that someone understood, that what happened in that warehouse was real. Even if no one else believed it, even if I was not sure, I believed it myself. I read the letter 3 times, then I put it down. I looked at the coffee. It was cold. I did not drink it. I looked at the window, the autumn light, the leaves falling, the world continuing, the world that does not stop for a letter, for a memory, for a warehouse that no longer exists. I picked the letter up again. I read the postmark, the city name. I could not pronounce it. I did not try. I held the paper. It was thin, cheap. The kind of paper you buy in stores that sell everything and nothing. I thought about Victor's hands, big, scarred. The hands that had caught himself on the concrete floor. The hands that had made car parts for 19 years. The hands that had held a pen to write 7 sentences. I wrote back. I did not know the address. I sent the letter to the post office in the city from the postmark. General delivery. I wrote, I remember, I was there. It was real. You were real. What you did was real. The falling and the rising, the staying, the nod that meant continue. I saw it. I carry it. I will carry it until I cannot carry anything anymore. I do not know if he received it. I do not know if he was still alive when it arrived. The letter was never returned. That is not proof. But it is something, a thread, a connection, a way of saying that the warehouse still exists, in the space between 2 letters, between a question and an answer that may never come. I went to Poland in 1993. The city was small, grey. The buildings were concrete, functional, the kind of buildings that do not pretend to be anything else. I found the hospital, 3 stories, a sign I could not read. I asked at the desk. I said, Kowalski. The woman looked at a book. She shook her head. She said something I did not understand. I said it again, Kowalski. Big man, former stuntman. She looked again. She found something. She wrote on a piece of paper. A date, March 1993. 3 months before my letter would have arrived. He was gone. The thread was cut. The connection was broken. The warehouse was emptier than it had been. I stood outside the hospital. The sky was the same grey as the buildings. There was no sun, no shadow, no contrast. I thought about the shaft of light in the warehouse, the way it had held Bruce, then moved, then held him half in shadow, the way the world shifts, the way light changes, the way nothing stays where you left it. I thought about Victor's knee on the concrete, the sound, the blood through the torn canvas, the way he had looked at the water, the container ship passing, the horn. I had never asked Bruce what the horn meant to him, if it meant anything, if he had even heard it. The things we do not ask, the questions we carry, the silence we keep. I went to the factory, the same brick, the same smokestacks. I stood across the street. I watched the workers leave, different faces, different bodies, the same blue coveralls, the same exhaustion, the same movement toward home, toward rest, toward the ordinary life that continues. That must continue. I looked for Victor in them. I did not find him. I knew I would not find him, but I looked anyway. The search is not about finding. The search is about continuing, about keeping the warehouse alive, about refusing to let it become condominiums, parking, forgetfulness. I found a bar near the factory, dark, small, the kind of place that does not welcome strangers. I ordered vodka. The bartender was old, 60, maybe older. His hands were scarred, not from stunts, from work, from life, from the things that mark you without asking. I showed him a photograph, Bruce, from a magazine, the famous pose, the yellow tracksuit, the nunchaku. The bartender looked. He nodded. He knew the name. Everyone knew the name. I told him about Victor, about the warehouse, about the fight that was not a fight. The bartender listened. He poured another vodka. He said something in Polish. I did not understand. He pointed to the photograph, then to his chest, then to the ceiling. I understood, or I thought I understood. The gesture meant many things. Or it meant nothing, or it meant everything. I drank the vodka. I left the bar. I walked to the train station. The platform was empty, cold. The train was late. I stood against a wall. I looked at the tracks, the gravel, the rails going somewhere, coming from somewhere, the connection between places, between people, between moments that seem separate but are joined by the thread of memory, the thread of story. The thread of a man who sends money for 19 years, who makes phone calls at 3 in the morning, who stands at the edge of a pool and talks about proof, about reality, about the difference between what is recorded and what is remembered. The train came, I boarded, I found a seat. The window was dirty, I looked through it anyway. The landscape passed, flat, grey, industrial, the same landscape I had seen years before, the same landscape that would continue after I was gone, after everyone who remembered the warehouse was gone. The warehouse would exist then only in the space between words, between tellings and retellings, between the truth and the lie that makes the truth bearable. I thought about my letter to Victor, the one that was never returned, the one that may never have been read, the words I had written. I remember, I was there, it was real. Were they true? Were they enough? Did they matter? I arrived in Warsaw, I found a hotel, I slept, I dreamed, the warehouse, the smell of cod, the diesel fumes, Bruce in the shaft of light, Victor in shadow, the circling, the silence, the fall, the waiting, the nod that meant continue, the nod that meant it was enough. I woke. The room was dark. I did not know where I was. For a moment I was in the warehouse, behind the camera, the Arriflex, the focus ring, the decision not to roll, the decision that defined everything, the decision that I still do not understand, that I still question, that I still carry. I am 73 years old now. The warehouse has been gone for 46 years. Bruce for 53, Victor for 33. Wong, if he is gone, for an unknown number. I am the last, the only one who was there, who saw, who remembers. The others are scattered. The loader from Portland, he became a teacher. He tells the story sometimes over beers, with details changed, with edges softened. He does not know I know. He does not know I listen. I found him online, a photograph, grey hair, glasses, the same face, older. He looks happy. I am glad. Someone should be happy. Someone should have escaped the warehouse. I live in a small house now, Oregon coast. The air is clean. The light is soft. Different from Hong Kong, different from Seattle, different from the warehouse. I have a room, one room with a desk, a chair, a window that looks at the ocean, the waves, the horizon, the place where the world ends or begins, depending on how you look at it. I sit here, I write, not every day. Some days I cannot. Some days the memory is too heavy, too sharp, too present. Some days it is distant, a photograph, a story someone told me, not something I lived, not something that changed me. I have the letter from Victor, framed, on the wall. The 7 sentences, the shaky handwriting, the block letters. The proof, if proof is needed, that it was real, that he was real, that what passed between them passed. I look at it sometimes, in the morning, when the light is right, when the letters are clear, when I can read them without crying. I have cried. More than I expected, more than I thought possible for a man my age. The tears do not come from sadness, not exactly, they come from the weight, the accumulation, the years of carrying something that does not belong to me. That belongs to the moment, to the warehouse, to the space between 2 men who agreed to something without words. I think about the film, the one we made, the warehouse scene, the choreography, the pulled punches, the fools that were sold. It exists somewhere, in a vault, on a shelf, in a format that no one watches anymore. I have never seen it, not since that day, not since I knew what was underneath, what was real. The film is a lie, a beautiful lie, a lie that entertains, that moves, that makes people believe they have seen something. They have not seen anything. They have seen the surface, the performance, the thing that is made to be seen, not the thing that exists in the seeing, in the being there, in the silence that follows the fall. I think about Bruce's question, the one he asked me at the pool, the blue light, the moving water. Did you roll? I said no. He said good. Some things should not be recorded. I believed him then, I believe him now, but I wonder if I had rolled, if the film had turned, if the proof had been captured. Would it be different? Would the memory be lighter? Would the weight be shared? Would I be able to sleep without seeing the warehouse? Without smelling the cod? Without hearing the sound of a fist on muscle, the sound of a knee on concrete, the sound of a man breathing after he has fallen and chosen to rise? I will never know. That is the nature of the decision, the nature of the moment. You choose, you live with the choice. You do not get to choose again. You do not get to roll back, to unchoose, to see what would have happened if you had done differently. The film does not rewind. The moment does not repeat. The warehouse stands only in memory. And memory is not enough. And memory is too much. And memory is all we have. I am tired now. The writing takes energy I no longer have. The remembering takes more. I will stop soon. I will look at the ocean, the waves, the horizon. I will think about Bruce, about Victor, about Wong, about the loader from Portland who became a teacher, about Hal Ashby who died in 1988, about the warehouse that became condominiums, about the proof that does not exist, about the reality that cannot be shared, about the thing that passes between two men who agree to something without words, the thing that has no name, the thing that I have spent 50 years trying to name. I will not name it. I cannot. It is not mine to name. It belongs to the moment, to the warehouse, to Bruce and Victor, to the silence, to the fall, to the rise, to the nod that meant continue, to the nod that meant enough, to the space between those nods, the space where everything happened, where nothing happened, where the world changed and did not change, where a man proved he could still win and discovered that winning was not enough, where another man proved he could still take and discovered that taking was all he had left. I put down the pen. I look at the letter, the 7 sentences, the shaky handwriting, the block letters. I look at the ocean, the waves, the horizon. I think about the last thing Bruce said to me at the pool in the blue light. Sometimes I need proof that it happened, that I was there, that I was real. I understand now, better than I understood then, the need for proof, the fear of unreality, the terror of becoming a performance, a poster, a memory in someone else's mind, the need to be solid, to be present, to be more than the image, more than the film, more than the thing that is seen and forgotten. I have no proof, only memory, only the weight, only the letter on the wall, only the smell of cod that comes sometimes, unbidden, unwanted, real. Only the sound of a knee on concrete, only the image of a big man looking at water, only the feeling of a young hand on my shoulder, only the silence, the long silence, the silence that holds everything. That is everything. That is the warehouse. That is the moment. That is the thing that passes between two men who agree to something without words. The thing I have tried to name, the thing I cannot name, the thing that is not a thing, that is only silence, only presence, only the space where meaning lives and dies and lives again. Each time I remember, each time I write, each time I look at the ocean and see not water but concrete, not waves but a shaft of light, not horizon but the face of a man who did not fall until he fell and rose and fell again. Into memory, into story, into the thing that outlasts us, that outlasts everything, the silence, the weight, the proof that is not proof, the reality that is not real, the warehouse, the warehouse, the warehouse,